Welcome everybody to today's webinar about calendars and conferencing in Lucid Meetings. My name is Tricia and I'm the product evangelist here at Lucid. Today I'm with our co-founders John and Elise Keith, who will spend about 20 minutes walking you through the examples. If you have questions, please type them in the chat box. I'll be watching the chat and we'll take some time to go over these questions before we end. We are recording this session and we'll send out a link to the recording later. Okay, let's jump right in. Over to you, Elise.
Thanks, Tricia, and welcome everyone to the webinar. This is the first of 3 short live demos that explore the main features in Lucid Meetings platform. So the goal of Lucid Meetings is to make it easy for everyone in your organization to run consistently worthwhile meetings. And when you think about all of the things that you need to do to run a really great meeting, we can look at the technology needed to support that in a sort of Maslow's hierarchy. At the most basic level, if you look at the pyramid, at the most basic level, you need a way to get those meetings onto the calendar. And then, you need a way for everybody to hear each other and share information at the same time. So, it's not a meeting if it's not on the calendar, you can't hear each other. And those are the things we're going to cover today. Now, once you have those basics covered, you can worry about sending agendas and capturing decisions and all the tools that help you run a better meeting. We'll cover those in tomorrow's session. And then finally, in our third webinar, we're going to talk about how to make meeting well a regular habit for your organization, focusing on the features here at the top of our pyramid. And rather than walk you through just a bunch of buttons and features, we're going to actually look at how you would use Lucid to support 3 typical meeting scenarios. First, John's going to walk you through how you would use Lucid to just do a regularly scheduled team meeting. It's basically what we call the happy path, the sort of thing you expect to do on a regular basis. Then I'll walk you through a slightly more complicated example. We'll talk about how to get a project meeting set up that involves a lot of people from several different countries where you're not entirely sure when the best time to meet might be. And then finally, John's going to show you how to do a spur-of-the-moment client call, one of those calls that comes in and you just need to spin up a meeting really quick. By the end of today's session, you will have seen how to find a meeting time, get that meeting invitation out so that it can get on everyone's calendars, how to work with time zones, how to select the audio that you'll use to run your meeting so that everybody can hear each other, and then troubleshoot any problems that you're going to run into with that audio, and finally, how to start an instant meeting on the fly. Okay, so with that, John, why don't you go ahead and show us our first example.
Okay, everybody, so here we are in my regular team meeting room where I hold one-on-ones and team meetings with my extended team. Right now we're getting ready to create a team meeting. We're going to do that based on a template. Lucid Meeting supports a variety of templates, including progress plans and problems, which is a status reporting template, essential kickoffs, basic agenda, blank agenda, and a host of other templates. For today's meeting, I'm going to pick the progress plans and problems template, and I'm going to schedule the meeting. Now later on, we'll talk about how to find a time for a meeting with other people, or again, how to meet now. We want to do an instant meeting, but for this moment, we're going to just go ahead and schedule this status meeting. So I'm just going to click this button here. And it's confirming the meeting title, which was set by the agenda template, which defines the type of meeting, and it's asking you to set the meeting date and time. It's super simple. I'm just going to go ahead and pick today, which is already picked, and I'm going to pick a time which is closer to where we are, like around 11:30. And you notice to set the end time based on the beginning time. It's a 25-minute meeting in my current time zone, which is Los Angeles. For this meeting, I want to decide how we're going to communicate. So today we're going to pick the computer and phone with the international option on it. And then we're going to add some people to our meeting. I meet with these people in my regular team, so I can simply select all the team members with one button. If I need to add more people, I can add their email addresses here as other team members, or if I have guests for just this meeting, I can invite people to this meeting alone. And I'm simply going to add the people for the meeting. And that's it. At this point, I've now gone through and I've added this meeting to the Lucid meeting system. We've automatically created a full agenda with the team updates and a review and close action item. We have a clear goal for the meeting. We can see the set of attendees that are in this meeting. We see that I've RSVP'd yes, as the organizers presumed I'll be there. We've not yet sent any RSVP emails yet, and the system knows that, and it knows that it's prompting me to send invitations right now. So the thing I want to do is I want to let people know about this meeting. So I'll click send the invitation email. And it comes pre-filled with the instructions that came from the agenda that describe what people should do in the meeting. It has a well-formatted title. It suggests that we should include the meeting agenda so that people know why they're coming to the meeting, what we're going to be talking about, and let me know when somebody RSVPs. Finally, it's pre-selected to send invitations to everybody who's not yet received one, which are all 4 of the invitees in this meeting, and we'll go ahead and send that email. At this point, everybody's received an email, and in fact, the system knows that. It's no longer requesting us to add an email. And if we take a look at the attendee tab again, we can see that we know when we last sent the invitation request, and we've not yet heard from these 3 participants. Since this is a demo, and I assume that everybody's around anyway and they're getting ready to go ahead and join the meeting, we're just going to go ahead and start this meeting. Start the meeting is very simple. We're just going to click this button, Start Meeting. That's it. Our meeting is running. Now, the first thing you remember that we selected to use computer and phone audio with the international option. It's actually giving us several options to join the audio portion of the call. Connect via computer requires you to have a computer headset and a supported browser, which are Firefox and Chrome. For people who don't have those browsers and want to join via a VoIP connection, we offer an alternate called SIP, which allows you to launch a VoIP client and do computer audio that way. And for the basic connection to the audio, we allow call by phone as well, integrated with the VoIP audio, with 2 sets of toll numbers, a toll-free number for this option, a conference ID for this specific meeting, and a personalized user ID. If you have people traveling that are not in the US, you want to pick a different number, you can pick the London number, and we go ahead and support a full suite of international numbers as well. I'm going to go and put that back to the US. And if you don't want to join the call yet because you're just trying to get oriented on the meeting, you can close this, and you can see that the options to join come in later. I'm not going to join that audio since I'm already in the GoToWebinar audio. Here we are actually in a basic meeting agenda for this type of status meeting. I'll take a note just for the fun of it. And that's it. Now we're starting to interact. I can see who's present. I can see who's absent. Now we're going to go ahead and just end this meeting. Yes, I'll confirm that. One of the things that we do is we do allow you to enable a survey at the end of a meeting, which gives you a chance to get feedback on how well people thought the meeting went. I thought this meeting was excellent, if a little short. Run the full. And I can provide a little bit of suggestions about how to improve my perception of the meeting, which is just feedback to the person who ran the meeting. I'm going to save that. And at that point, we've actually finished running a meeting. We have within the context of our agenda, we have a simple note. And to conclude the process of scheduling, running, and completing a meeting, I can send a follow-up email, which looks very much like the invitation. It says include the full meeting record, which will include all the notes from the meeting. Send it to everyone. Send an email, and now we're done. And the system knows we're done. It's no longer prompting me for any actions. We've now completed the entire process. And that is it in a nutshell for scheduling, running, and following up on a meeting with a full agenda using best practices for meetings.
And with that, that's the happy path. That's basically how you schedule a meeting. Now I'm going to walk you through a more complicated example. In this case, we're looking at creating a meeting where we have international attendees and we don't know exactly what time they need to meet. So I'm going to start by going up and hitting Add a Meeting. And this is a meeting for my Acme project. Now, I'm looking to kick off this meeting. It's a brand new project, so I'm going to go ahead and pick my Essential Project Kickoff template, and I'm going to ask for availability. Now, rather than picking a specific date and time, it's giving me a choice to set a bunch of options. I know that my client is interested in meeting as quickly as possible, so I'm going to go ahead and set some times for today and one for later this afternoon. Let's see, how about 2:30? But you know, I'm not quite sure what's going to work, so let's pick a couple more times later in the week. Maybe one on Thursday and again on Friday at, you know, maybe 11 is going to be too late for some people. Let's do 9. Now at this point, I'm not picking what kind of audio or anything that I want yet. We're just trying to get this meeting on the calendar. So I've got a range of times selected. I want to invite my team. I need to invite a couple of the key people from my client. And I also need to invite some other folks from their team. And they've sent me these email addresses earlier. So I'll just go ahead and paste anybody new that I don't already have in my room into my invitation list, and they'll get on there too. I'll add these people. And just like when we scheduled a meeting, it's prompting me to go ahead and send meeting notices. Now, when I go ahead and look at my attendee list, I can see that my availability is already set because we assume that if you're saying these are good days, that those are probably days you can attend, and that everybody else hasn't been asked yet. And I've got people coming from all over the planet. Now, I went ahead and did this earlier so I can show you kind of what it looks like. But before I send the notices, I basically have a chart that looks like this. Here's everybody and when they can meet. And right now, mine is the only availability that's filled out. Now, when I send that notice, everybody's going to see these dates in their time. I see them in Pacific, 11:15, 2:30, and I sent one earlier to one of my example people. And Gmail is trying to be so helpful. Go to Gmail. And this lady sees these times in Amsterdam time. So she gets to decide whether she wants to meet at 11:30 at night or 8 o'clock at night. Inconvenient for this particular person. I'm so sorry about that. Anyway, when people come in and they've gotten that RSVP and they reply, you start to see the dates fill in. And here's what it looks like after you've gotten a few responses. So in this case, I have a bunch of people who can't really make it this afternoon. Amy, for whatever reason, has not yet replied. But one thing that's super important to me is that my project sponsor is Cab Calloway, and he can only meet at 11:15. That's right now, so let me go ahead and set the meeting date and get this meeting started. When I go to set the meeting date, it will highlight for me the most popular one. And at this point, I am, in fact, asked to go ahead and pick my audio, what kind of audio I'm going to use. In this particular space, we like to use video conferencing because we like that sort of enhanced personal experience. So I'll go ahead and save and next. And it will ask me to go ahead and send the invitations, just like it did when we scheduled it, when John showed you earlier. And now that I have my meeting scheduled, we found a time and it's time to start it. All right. Now this meeting, rather than showing me those boxes to, excuse me, join by computer, audio, or dial in with a phone, in this case I'm using a conferencing service, video conferencing service called AppearIn, and that's going to open in a new window. This one connects using your browser. I'm not going to do it right now because I think my computer will explode with video conferencing and webinars and everything going on at once. But that's basically how that works. And everybody can open and see themselves in the video. Now, I'm in my meeting, and I know that Amy didn't RSVP or anything. So but I want her in this call. So right in the middle of the meeting, I can do a couple of things to bring her in. I can resend the invitation, which is going to send her an invitation with a great big red button that says, hey, you're meant to be in a meeting. Or as the facilitator of this meeting, I can just copy this link. And this is her personal link. And I can go ahead and ping her in Slack. Hey, Amy, please join my meeting. Slack or Skype or whatever it is you happen to use. So you can resend that email or catch somebody in a side channel. And hopefully Amy will join my call any minute now. When I get everybody into a call like this, of this size, and hopefully they're all joining the video, one thing that tends to happen, or that can happen, is that we learn that, you know, Amy actually doesn't have a camera and isn't able to use the video. If that happens, I can then switch. So this is one of our troubleshooting techniques that we talked about earlier. She can't do video today. So instead of using video for this call, we're going to go ahead and switch back to computer and phone so that she can call us that way instead. And that right in the middle of the call makes sure that everybody sees new audio information, and just like we saw before, they can go ahead and do a dial-in or join the computer audio. That is the fastest and easiest way to troubleshoot your audio. Just switch it out with something else. And then you'll see after the meeting, we've also left you a handout with some more troubleshooting techniques. So with that, I have shown you how to find some available times and send out some invitations, what it looks like when you're scheduling that poll, how to then get that meeting on the calendar, select video conferencing, and switch to something else if that's not working, and how to help encourage people who are supposed to be in your meeting to show up, even if they don't show up right on time. I'm going to end this meeting, and then John's going to walk you through one more example, and then we'll take some time for questions.
All right, everyone. Well, we're back now on my meeting, and we talked about these three scheduling options before. My favorite, the one I created basically for myself, was Meet Now, because I'm a somewhat impatient person and not always as organized as I should be. And sometimes I just need a spur-of-the-moment meeting. So for those types of meetings, what I might do is I might pick a different template. We'll pick, say, a blank agenda, which means basically I don't know what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to say I'm going to go ahead and Meet Now. Meet Now is a one-button click and start a meeting. I'm going to go ahead and pick the phone that I want to do this thing, and here we go. And just like that, we're in a meeting. Now this, we've gone through some very, nice scenarios for getting them on the calendar, getting invitations out. But again, here's a case where I have a meeting set up and running. I'm going to close the audio. And what I can do is, I'm the only one in the meeting and the only one invited because I never bothered to invite anybody. I can simply go here and invite more people. And I can pick people from my team, or I can add new people here. I can go and pick Amy Farrell, Elise, and Tricia. Send them invitations. Each of those invitees will receive a personalized invitation. You see the three of them here, and hopefully at least one of them will join my meeting, and we can go ahead and have our call. And they'll get the same audio prompt that I got, and we are now on the call, and we can do things like take a little time to set our agenda and decide what it is we actually had to meet so urgently about. And that is the simplest happy path for getting an instant meeting setting up with an agenda and the ability for all of us to take notes and get a shared outcome. And I see Elise was taking a note, and she did. You're welcome, Elise. I think. Great. And with that, our meeting is concluded. And I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting again. I'm going to skip this step. I don't want to do the survey this time. And we're done. And that is the full set of Meet Now. We could have spun up a Meet Now with a complete sophisticated agenda instead of a simple agenda. In this case, I chose a simple one. And that's it.
Okay. So that's it. We've been through all three examples. We're trying to keep these nice and short. We know the holidays are really, really busy. So with that, we'll turn it back to Tricia and take any questions.
Thanks, Elise. Yeah, so we just saw 3 different ways to schedule a meeting and get people on the call using Lucid. With the time we have left, we'd like to go over the questions that you have. So please feel free to type some into the chat box. Looks like we have a couple already, but if you have some, go ahead and type them in. So the first one I have is, okay, my time zone just shows Los Angeles. How do you set your time zone?
I'll be happy to show that.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and show my screen again. All right, so there are a couple different ways you can set your time zone. The first is when you go into the menu, you can look at the calendar. Now, by default, what's going to happen when you add somebody to the system, they're either going to be assigned the system default, which in this case is Los Angeles time, or we do try and see, if we can find what their time zone is based on any connected Google accounts or LinkedIn accounts. So if they happen to log in that way, we'll get it correct from the get-go. But you can set your time zone either on the calendar itself, and we do have the more comfortable U.S. Pacific times in here. The other way to set your time zone is on your account, in your display preferences. You can set not only your time zone, but also how you like to see times displayed. So if you are working with an international group that prefers to see things in 24-hour time, you can set that here. And I think that's the basics of it. Now, one other thing that comes up with time zones is not only how to set your own time zone, but how to set the time zone of other people that you've invited. So like in the example of this project kickoff meeting, if I have an unscheduled project kickoff meeting, I can go into the attendees and edit them to set their time zone there as well. So I'm not going to walk through all that right now, but are there other questions?
Yeah, actually there are quite a few. So here's another one. For international teams, does the international, I think it meant to say number, does the international publish multiple country-specific available numbers? Who would like to take that one?
John, do you want to take that one?
Yes, I'll unmute myself and I'll go ahead and take that one. We'll do it properly now. All right, so for the international numbers, one of the things that I didn't show when we scheduled the meeting, so I'll just go ahead and we'll do another schedule of this meeting just for the fun of it. And we'll go ahead and pick the international numbers here. And we'll just save and next. And we'll cancel the add extra people. If we take a look at the meeting instructions, we actually see that we've chosen on our configuration to pre-declare that the Canadian and US numbers available. So we've chosen that Canada and US should be included in the dialing instructions by default. When you get into the meeting itself, when we run a meeting, you can see all the different numbers. If somebody is not in Canada, they're in a different location, then we can go ahead and pick Buenos Aires number, apparently, or the Brisbane number, or the Calgary number. So when we set up our room and set up our meeting, we determine which international numbers we want to have included by default, but all of them are available in the meeting in case you get to a situation where somebody just is traveling to Paris this week for some reason. So hopefully that answered the question, if I understood it right. Any more?
Okay, great. I do have I think it's a follow-up question from that one that asks, could we offer Brisbane and Lima lines during the same meeting?
And the answer is yes.
All the numbers are available. The real question is, which ones are you putting in the invitations that go out, and which ones are you making available in addition in the meeting? So in this case, we've as a person in Brisbane, I can I can just select that number, and then the other person in Paris can also select the number. So two different people can just select which number they want. And then as the organizer, you choose which numbers you want to actually send out in the invitation. So if you're predominantly US, you may not want to send out all the international numbers in the email invitation because it's confusing, but you may want to have them available for our participants when they join your meeting.
Okay. And the attendee said that that was a great explanation. So that's all the time we have for today. We'll send a link to the webinar recording and some additional resources by email later in the week. We've also attached a handy troubleshooting guide as a handout for this webinar. If you have any more questions about the topics that we covered today, you can reach us at support@lucidmeetings.com. Thanks for joining us.